feeling so hopeless today. School started, and I hate my classes, and I don't even know how I feel about some of my friends anymore.
Did you hear that? Was that gunshots?
I don't know.
Oh my god.
Okay.
Oh my god, what do we do? What do we do? What do we do? Quiet, quiet. We have to listen. We're gonna die. We're gonna die. No, we're gonna die. Get in there.
I've been feeling really down lately. My mom's been focused on my baby sister and my little brother, and my dad's been working really hard lately. And I'm just not happy with all the stuff that's been going on around me, and I have no control over it. The other day, Kay got pulled out of school because she was cutting herself. And then Carrie's brother recently died because he overdosed on some sort of opium. And there's no one I can talk to about this because my mom and dad are unavailable, and I really only have you.
Hello, and welcome back to Resilience and Self-Esteem. I am so happy to be with you tonight with an outstanding guest that I'm so eager to interview. In fact, I've interviewed him already two times, and it's not enough. So, Jeff, welcome back to my show, and I'm going to ask you to take a moment to tell the audience a little bit about your unbelievable life events and travels and things that you volunteer. But you'll say it better than I will because you've lived it.
Thank you, Barbara. It's good to be back with you too. Well, currently I am the president of two foundations. One is the Science Tech Foundation of Indiana, and we give away up to $200,000 a year in grants to organizations that provide STEAM, meaning science, technology, engineering, arts, medicine, education, mostly for underprivileged kids throughout the state of Indiana. Um, I'm also the president of the Bassa Village Foundation USA, which works with our sister foundation in a remote area of Nepal called Bassa. And we do infrastructure work in that region. And I'm also a director of the Indianapolis Peace and Justice Center, which puts on educational programs in Indianapolis about issues concerning justice and peace. So,
Oh,
and I write books.
you sure do. You've written how many? 20 something, I think. I'm not sure. It's
17. I hope I'll hit 20 someday.
very good. We want to talk a little bit about your latest book that is very interesting. I have it here, right here. I was reading it while I had lunch today. Let's see. And it is about teenagers and all their problems and, let's say, solutions at times, and things that happen on a camping trip. And what I liked so far is that I really felt that the voice who was speaking, telling the story, was very reassuring and kind, and didn't make anything worse than it had to be, but still gave a very clear account of how the kids were behaving or not behaving on this trip. And I wonder, I know you wrote some of your own questions that I'm going to ask you, but um, was the voice your voice at 15 or 16, or who was that voice that was telling the story?
Yeah. Well, it's a combination of my voice that I was trying to recapture, being a teenager, and trying to not only write the story that was taking place in the late 60s, but also to capture the ambiance of it. And so, of course, the voice is also part of my current voice, looking back on it. Um, but the story on the surface is kind of a lighthearted pop culture with a teenage romance in it. But I think there's a subtle subtext, which is about the destructiveness of cliques and tribalism. And I won't blow the climax since you haven't gotten to the end of the book yet. But that's what it's leading up to, is these two different groups of teenagers from two different towns and two different Christian denominations having this conflict, and it reaches sort of a crisis point. And there's one person who, if you can tell by the cover, who's kind of caught in the middle, but
Is that
um,
pretty girl?
it also, the subtext is that girls at that age are usually smarter than boys.
Right. Well, they realize, I think, faster than boys sometimes when they've gone too far, they're in trouble, whatever. And I got such a kick out of up to where I was by the time I finished my brief lunch, where the four boys were going to tell, sort of go into the space where the four girls were. And I'm not sure what they were hoping to accomplish or do, but they had told the girls, so the girls were not totally not, just out of the blue. But when they went into where the girls' tent was, they were in the wrong tent. And, this one girl was saying, "Get off of me, you stupid jerk." And I can just remember myself at that age that, if a fellow didn't have some smarts, get away from me. It was very well done, very well done. So, as I said, you had come up with some questions. So who did you write the book for? Is there a central message in the book?
I wrote it for any age of teenagers and above. I think baby boomers would enjoy it, to some extent out of nostalgia, because, like I said, I try to bring out the ambiance and the culture of the late 60s. But I would also hope that younger people would get something out of it, because I hope it represents an accurate sense of what teenagers are like. And, I raised two millennials, and they're different, definitely sort of surface generational differences, but there's also an awful lot in common, of teenagers of every generation. Yeah, so I hope there would be appeal to young people as well as older people.
I think there would be, and as you're talking, I don't know if you thought about this, I think it could make a very interesting film because there's a lot of tension that builds. There's a lot of sort of the kids being kids, and like the way they went into that tent and it was the wrong tent. These are things that people laugh about in a movie or a short, and you captured them quite well. So I don't
Well,
know.
thanks. And if there's any producers out there listening, contact me.
Yes, for
But
sure.
having written this many books, and none of them have been made into a movie yet, I'm not holding my breath. So, and I actually
Well,
have one of my sons is in Hollywood, and he's in the TV and documentary films, not the fictional films, but he's in that business, so I don't know why he hasn't come around and opened that door for me.
Well, yeah, sometimes your friends and family are not the first people that care very much about what you're doing, as long as when they need you, you're there. And if they need advice, you're there. Otherwise, it's like, oh, you make films? Oh, I didn't even realize it. So, but I could see someone would draft, a script for you. It could be quite engaging. And there aren't enough stuff like that around. But let me continue, or I'll get carried away completely. Okay. If you had to choose, what would you say is the single most important idea you're sharing in your book that's really going to add value to the reader's life?
I think it's the point that I try to make through the narrative about the dangers of cliques and tribalism. That within the group, that the boy and girl who are the main characters, there's tension that develops because of cliques within that group. And then the tribalistic sort of response of the one group of Presbyterians from the town of Goshen against the Methodists from the town of Lapel, where, these kids in so many ways are so much alike. They're both from small towns in Indiana, Protestant church groups out for a weekend camping trip. And yet they feel this animosity just because they're in different groups. And of course, there's also the sort of the boys' adolescent testosterone and need to prove themselves at work here. But so that's, on an overarching point, I think, tribalism extending to international relations, it's a problem that humanity has had from its very beginning. And you'd think by 2025, we might be a little better at resolving it. I don't think we are.
Seems to be one of the major problems in having a peaceful world, is feeling either cheated or feeling that they deserve more. However you cut it, you're right. It's people do not some I suppose there's something in the DNA from coming out of the caves, 500,000 years ago, or whenever. They keep saying it was longer and longer behind us, but whenever we finally got out of the caves, people to survive couldn't worry about getting along, I guess. I think in the beginning, some of it was just survival, and it never mutated as well as it should have.
Yeah, and I think, America really was sort of the one great hope where all these people from all over the world came to this country. The whole melting pot idea, uh, different races, ethnicities, etc., ideally would get along here because we all uh, sort of swore allegiance to one thing, the US Constitution, based on equality of opportunity and individual freedom. And that would bind us together. And I think, and it's a beautiful ideal. And yet, generation after generation, we see one group being discriminated against by the majority, other groups being in conflict. And so, we have that ideal as a nation, and I think it's a wonderful ideal. And it seems like we make progress towards achieving the ideal, and then there's regression. And to me, I think we're in a period of regression right now. Um, but Yeah. Again, we shouldn't let go of the ideal.
No, we shouldn't. And I think one thing that happened that was a very bad mistake across the country was most public school systems, and I don't know what was happening in private ones, stopped having a half year or a year of civics. And civics really is necessary. I mean, we have a very complex system that how could we expect an immigrant or even a kid who no longer studies it to really understand much about democracy? And why they started to take it away just seems insane to me, you know.
Yeah, I agree. And I think there's a plethora of evidence to show that in terms of the way we are expressing citizenship and understanding of what our Constitution offers us and how we should be responsible citizens is declining. I at least, currently I don't, and I mean, I could get very political about it, but I won't unless you ask me to.
No,
Um,
no,
but I really do think we've taken a major wrong turn. And yeah, I think education is a big part of it. And the way some of the people we've elected to office really makes you wonder about how well we're educating our young people, our
yeah.
voters.
Have you had any kids write to you or, stop in some way them and they've said anything about the book?
No, the only people that have either posted reviews on Amazon or contacted me about it, whom I know or who have revealed who they are or their age are older people. There's one review that's posted by a millennial aged guy who I happen to know, um, which is a very nice review. But he's a teacher. I mean, he's a grown up with kids
Mhm.
of his own. So in terms of like teenage or people in their 20s, no, haven't heard from him. Don't know if anybody that age has read it.
Well, we're going to do a little show, probably it won't be till the end of August, where we'll discuss how both of us have put into this latest book that each of us wrote, where mine is about the two, actually the three young ladies who start college in 1960, and they enter college in a period of time where if you were not careful in the way you handled your dating situation and you happened to get pregnant, you could be in terrible trouble because very often there was no way out that was a good way. And by the time the girls graduated in 1964, there were many opportunities to use the type of control that would probably keep a person from getting pregnant. The world had like changed almost overnight. And my book, of course, is not just about that, but it is about women feeling that they're in charge of their own futures and have opportunities, and they have uh, even exiting when they need to exit from something. And there's just a lot to talk about that became so important as your book moved toward the end of the 60s. And then, of course, the flower children and the death of Kennedy and all sorts of things. It's an amazing period of time. And I'm
It
glad
really
that I'm
was.
right. I'm so
Yeah.
excited to put some time into it, you know?
Yeah, well, I look forward to that discussion. I think it's, really interesting how we can kind of weave into from your book to mine.
Yeah.
And then a book I wrote before this one, actually, it focuses, the main character is a young man, but it's in the early 70s, and it's
Oh,
about him hitchhiking through the Midwest and down through the Deep South and the experiences he has. And um,
good.
yeah, I mean, again, it's about that period of time where it was just such a dynamic and a cultural revolution going on.
It certainly was. I remember I had a friend, and I hadn't talked to her maybe in 2 years or something, and she was a flower child. She and her to-be husband, I don't know if they were legally married yet, moved to Maine where there were a lot of young couples, and they grew all their own food. She even had two pigs most of the time in a barn, and just I couldn't even believe it because I was so just old fashioned, 3 meals a day with, using the stove to heat it up, that kind of thing. And so we got on the phone together and she said, well, I have a new hobby. I am crocheting bathing suits. Would you like one? And I'm thinking, never in the world will I go public in a crocheted bathing suit. I mean, it's like beyond where I live in my head, you know. So I had to be very nice to her and said, well, I'll think about it. But I never did get the crocheted bathing suit. And she's still alive now. She's a lovely, lovely woman. They still grow quite a bit of their own food, so I guess you could say it worked for them. Interesting.
Yeah,
So,
that is interesting because I actually also know two women who did this kind of back to nature, small farm, off the grid lifestyle. And I mean, it's really admirable in a way. I wouldn't want to do it, but
right.
yeah.
Yeah, yeah. So let me just see. Two questions, and then we're going to stop for this time. All right, one is tell us your most rewarding experience since publishing your work. And the other one is, did your environment or upbringing play a major role in your writing? And have you used it to your advantage? However you want to handle either question.
Okay. Well, in terms of the kind of the most satisfying thing, it wouldn't be this book. It would actually be a book that's titled "You Have to Get Lost Before You Can Be Found," and it was about the experiences I've had in Nepal because I've been there 13 times and then an additional time in the Indian Himalayas, and how uh, my kind of first experience was as an adventurous mountain climber type, and how that evolved into the philanthropic work and the creation of the foundation. And what a just wonderful addition to my life it's been working with this remote village in Nepal. Um, the second question was about how my environment has
Yeah.
influenced
Yeah, just the way you grew
influenced.
up.
Well, in this last book, the book we've been talking about, it's based on an actual experience I had. I mean, to some extent, not 100%, but to some extent, the narrator is describing an experience that I had when I was 15 years old, and our church youth group had a weekend camp out at Pokagon Park, where all this takes place. And so that the environment that I grew up in and my own sort of small town Midwestern culture is very much reflected in that story.
Yeah, I think we do bring some of our stuff to our stories for sure. You know, I can't think right at this second out of my books exactly what I've captured that is really the way I was brought up, but I'm sure it's there. I'll think more about that for when we have our next talk. So I really enjoy talking to you, and I think the amount of travel and investment in helping people, your ability to raise funds and stuff, you're really at the cutting edge of a place that most people cannot get to. They can't sustain themselves. They're too selfish, or they have no money, or whatever. I'm not saying it's bad. I'm just saying you have that extra special touch. So keep going, be strong, stay healthy, and I'll be back in touch with you after my vacation.
Good being with you, Barbara. I look forward to our next chat.
Okay, bye for now.